your 9-point checklist for IELTS Academic Task 1. And just a heads up, number 8 is a little bit weird, so don't be surprised when we get there. Hi there, my name's Ben Worthington from IELTSPodcast.com. Let's get started. This is going to be super practical. Grab a pen and we will make this class an active learning session instead of just a passive one. So the first one is organizing your information. And a good way to do this, especially if we've got time data, is to start with the bottom. Let's see, it's all reversed because the mirrors, the reflection. But you want to start in the corner of your chart and then work out there. That's just a logical way if you've got chronological data such as years or time or hours. Just start there. Another good way to organize the information is to group the data. A good way to demonstrate this is just to give you a quick look at a chart. So here we've got calorie source of UK males at different life periods. So here, a good way to organize the data would be to talk about this one, and then talk about this one. And again, another way to organize the data is to look for groups. So this is definitely a group that we can put together because they are very similar. Another group, which might be a bit surprising for you, might be to note the maximums at each age period. So this one, and this one is going to be another group. Now, the more you do this, the easier it gets. Let's move on. So the vocabulary, we definitely need to pay attention to the vocabulary. And it's not just for pie charts, but we also need the specific vocabulary for a line chart. Is it a dynamic selection of vocabularies? So for example, if the chart shows some change, we need the language of change, such as it increased dramatically, it reached a peak, it was falling rapidly, and so on and so forth. Now for pie charts, we need to brush up on our percentages. 50% is a half, 30% is roughly a third, and so on. And we need to get familiar with this so we're not trying to relearn it actually in the exam. And a bonus tip is if we can improve our vocabulary by using fancier phrases such as 3 times larger than, 6 times larger than, twice as large, or nearly double, or a third of, then it just takes it to that next level, and we're just increasing the chances of improving our grammatical range and accuracy score, and probably our lexical resource score as well. Correctly identifying the graph. This goes back to what I was saying before. I have seen numerous academic task 1 descriptions where the student has used the language of change when the chart was static. So they might say the pie chart vastly increased to 30%. And it's very unlikely we're going to be using a pie chart to show a change in the data. Pie chart which is used for other purposes. So just make sure, like, okay, I see a pie chart, I'm going to use fractions, I'm going to use percentages. I see a line chart and it shows a change over time, I'm going to use dynamic vocabulary. And the important thing here is not getting them mixed up. And another bonus tip, a lot of students, because they are time sensitive, they've got their exam coming up in a week, they usually just focus on the main charts and they forget about a map or a process. So just make sure you've got those, you're covering those while you're preparing for academic task 1. 5, including all the relevant subjects. So this means we can't forget a detail, we can't forget a subject on the chart. So we've got to pay attention to the index, the key, which might say, I don't know, the countries, it might say the units, but we've got to include that data. Now be careful here, because what happens a lot of the time is a student might list every single data point, which is a clear, the student has clearly ignored the actual task, which is summarize and give the main points of the chart. If you're including every single data point, then you're not doing what the IELTS examiner has asked you to do. So although you've got to mention the countries in the chart, for example, let's just go back to this one. So here we will mention all of these, all the food groups, but we're not going to mention every single data point on there. Okay? So yeah, avoid the detailed lists. Now, number 6, paying attention to the units. This is incredibly important as well, and I can't tell you the amount of times I see an essay where the student might it might be sort of like in tens of thousands, and now the student is writing all the zeros there where they could just maybe put a K. But you've got to be careful when you're doing this. Again, is it liters? Is it millimeters? The answer is basically in front of you in the chart. So just really analyze it and use the units that are in the chart in front of you in your description. Now, sometimes we might see an amount like, I don't know, 222,408. And that can be quite a mouthful. So another bonus tip here is just to round the numbers. So we could say around 220,000. And that's perfectly fine for our written description. Again, we're not going to go through every single detailed data point. We do need to round up sometimes just to make it easier to read. Now, another point for the students, especially the students in Spain, Italy, and Latin America, and I think even in China. In the UK, we use a decimal point to show the decimals, whereas in other countries, they might use a comma. And when we're doing, we've got a number like 10,000, it's going to go 10,000, whereas in other countries, it will go 10.000. And this is a huge factor because there is a massive difference between 10,000 and 10 with 30 decimal places. Highlighting the extremes. This is a great way to get started when you're really confused about a chart. Just go to the extremes. And let's just go back to there we go. Let's go back to this one. So as I said right at the beginning, here are our extremes, and there's another extreme because it's the lowest data point on the chart. And it also is an invitation, basically, for us to include the superlatives, the highest point on the chart, the largest section in the pie chart, the final process of the tea production manufacturing system, whatever. Identifying patterns and trends. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about grouping the data. Okay, so we might want to, identify the largest sections in the pie chart or the bar chart. We might want to identify if it's a line chart, the steepest climb or the lowest point, the overall point. And now here's the weird tip that I mentioned at the beginning. What we can do is look at the chart and then squint our eyes so it goes all blurry, and then we can just focus, not really focus, but just try and observe the key points there, because when we squint our eyes it's all going to go blurry and only the major parts will stand out, and those are the parts that we want to mention in our academic task 1 description. Now, you might get a horrible chart like this one. Okay, I made this on purpose a while back, and I made it exceptionally horrible because this is one of the charts that the students describe when they're working through our course. I made it horrible just to make it an extra bit of a challenge. But here you might see, wow, there is nothing really here where I can group. And you might be right, but here's what I usually say to students. Here, we've got some extreme fluctuations, so that's definitely worth pointing out. Overall, we can definitely see that there's no clear trend here at first glance. So that is the trend, that there is no clear trend. We can say there are wild fluctuations throughout the time period, and there is one noticeable exception here between August and September and October for Wales, where the rainfall is exceptionally low. That's the main exception here, but the overall trend is that the rainfall is very erratic over the 12-month period. So just try to keep that in mind. Exceptions. This is what I just quickly mentioned. Here, this is the exception. It's all crazy for the whole 12 months, except this one. That's the only period of time where it's relatively stable. In most of the other months, it's going bananas. Don't mention bananas though in your chat description. And that's it. If you need more help with this, then you can definitely have a look at our Academic Task 1 course and have a look at our AI essay checking tool that's going to give you instant feedback. I'll put some links in the description. Thank you for watching. If you like this, please share it with a friend, hit the like button, whatever tickles your fancy, and good luck with your IELTS exam.